From Pennsylvania, Mr. Keller is now recognized.
I would first like to take a moment to thank all our panelists, this panel and the previous panel, for your testimony. We've seen some horrific acts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We saw a devastating shooting in Philadelphia on Saturday, and I continue, and we all should offer prayer for the families across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and across our nation that have been affected by these acts committed by violent criminals, skyrocketing crime in our cities. That's what we need to focus on. New York City saw a 16.2% increase in violent criminals shooting others in March of 2022. That's up from a year before. San Francisco saw a 31% rise in homicides. In Chicago, violent criminals were responsible for shooting 47 people on Memorial Day weekend alone. There's a trend here. Crime is rising in cities that have the most restrictive laws on firearms and have the least severe criminal enforcement penalties on the books. And in fact, cities that don't enforce the laws that are on the books. The district attorney in San Francisco has dismissed over 40% of felony convictions since 2020. And in Philadelphia, homicides have increased 58% during District Attorney Larry Krasner's tenure. However, only 21% of crimes when violent criminals shot another person since 2015 have led to criminal charges, and less than 1/10 of those incidents resulted in convictions. Philadelphia police are making record amounts of arrests for crimes committed by violent people with guns. Yet Krasner's office has dismissed or withdrawn more violent cases every year he has been in office. The bottom line is when you fail to enforce the law and hold criminals accountable, you get criminal behavior. So, Ms. Swearer, how does failure to prosecute past or current crime affect crime rates in the future?
Well, it certainly emboldens criminals and reasonably allows them to believe that there's a very little chance that they will be punished or in any way held accountable for their crimes.
Many of the proposals we're discussing today are widely implemented across the municipalities where crime spikes are happening. Would limiting law-abiding citizens' right to own a firearm curb these disturbing trends?
No, it would not, and I would also point out the reality of most gun violence is not that it's being perpetrated by people who lawfully purchase and possess their firearms. It is largely perpetrated by individuals with long histories of violence who obtain their firearms already through illegal and illegitimate channels that are not addressed by universal background checks because they are already circumventing the law regarding those background checks. It's a very low reward endeavor, even if it's like 100% enforceable.
Okay. What measures should be taken to ensure victims and their families are not legally ignored in favor of defendants?
I would, again, refer to some of my previous testimony, because I know our time is short. Previous testimony that I've given before the Senate Judiciary Committee on gun violence in Chicago, I think a lot of that is still applicable to your question. From a federal perspective, as I said, continue to enforce federal laws and hold criminals accountable at a federal level when possible, and encourage state and local counterparts, some of whom have done a horrific job of this, to do the same.
So I just have a question. There's a called the NICS system, and when you purchase a firearm, as I don't know how many people in this room have ever gone through a background check, but it does ask questions. I know it was brought up earlier about criminals being able to purchase guns. Is it not already illegal for rapists and murderers and people who have done domestic violence and convicted of these things? Isn't it already illegal for them to purchase firearms?
To purchase and to possess, assuming they are felons and have not had their rights restored to them under existing state or federal processes, though there is no process under federal law, so it would just be under the state.
Okay, but the point is, it's already, we're not saying that criminals should have laws. We're saying criminals should be put in jail, and law-abiding citizens should be allowed to lawfully possess firearms.
That is certainly what I'm saying, and that is my understanding of what every member who has opposed H.R. 8 is saying as well.
Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.